Hey everyone, welcome back to I Married a Film Snob, where we review films of today and yesteryear. In this video, we're going to review the recent release, Triangle of Sadness, directed by Ruben Östlund. So make sure to watch until the end to see our rating.
Here we go, let's do it! Ruben Ostlund is quickly becoming one of the best satirical filmmakers of this generation.
Oh yeah.
Using black comedy as a means of putting a magnifying glass on the absurdities of contemporary society. Now his previous film, The Square, which we loved, was a very critical and hilarious look at the contemporary art world. So we were excited to see this new film, backed by the fact that it also won the Palme d'Or at Cannes.
And let me just say, we were not disappointed. Östlund does not pull any punches and just skewers the lives and mental state of the uber-rich, whose ridiculous antics might seem over the top, but are in fact alarmingly grounded in reality.
Yeah, that's the scary part. The film is scathing and often hilarious, and it covers the gamut of comedy, from smart social commentary all the way to over-the-top scatological toilet humor.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous. So the film is about a social media obsessed influencer couple who are trying to navigate each other's social hierarchy and are on the fringe of failing when they're invited to an ultra luxury cruise for free. On the cruise, their strained relationship and superficiality only become more evident as they encounter a wide array of different ultra-wealthy people.
Now the demands of these ultra-wealthy people become increasingly ever more ridiculous as they are contrasted against the day-to-day realities of the crew, who must clean and deal with the whims of a bored and out-of-touch clientele.
I command you, enjoy the moment.
No.
No?
No.
What? You say no to me?
No.
Oh, so it's yes?
Yeah, no.
Yes?
Going in.
Yes!
Now the film is comprised of three arches, with the protagonists Carl and Yaya being present in all three subsections of the story.
Now the first section observes the relationship between Carl and Yaya, which mainly consists of them arguing about money and relationship roles. All the while, the film avidly demystifies the allure of influencer life by peeling back the realities of that life and the lack of actual human interaction this couple has.
Now sadly, that relationship is pretty much all pretense and almost like a business transaction between them. And while Carl tries to assert himself, he becomes a pawn in Yaya's world. Now the second and most hilarious section of the film is about life on the ultra luxe cruise and the cast of characters that emerge both from the staff and clientele. In this section, the movie's message becomes most evident and heavy-handed. But I actually appreciated how heavy-handed it was, because Östlund is not a filmmaker afraid to ruffle feathers or go to extremes to make sure we understand the absurdity of the modern world we live in.
Oh yeah. I especially love the scene with the older oligarch taking a picture of, I don't know if it's his daughter, if
side
it's
chick
mistress.
Yeah.
We don't know. And he's just, laid back, just carelessly taking the picture of her.
And that's what's good about us. He gets these little moments that we see every day.
Yeah.
We see this happen all the time.
Oh yeah.
And he heightens them to a level where they're ridiculous, but they're actually not that far from reality.
Yeah, so he exposes the giant gaps between social hierarchy that exist, which are mainly attributed to obscene amounts of wealth controlled by a lucky few. Östlund is not a filmmaker striving for status quo or trying to be politically correct, and we admire him for that.
That's why we love him. Now on the ship, while we see and listen to the silly and quirky requests of the uber-rich clientele,
The sails. Do you think it's possible to wash them?
I don't think that's possible, ma'am, because this is a motorized vessel.
Yeah.
So we don't have any sails.
It was sails. Yes.
Well then, in that case, we will clean the sails.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Östlund then smartly intercuts scenes of the workers' lives below deck. We realize the giant machinery at play just to keep a few crazy people satisfied. And a social pyramid is in a way transplanted onto a luxury yacht.
And that social hierarchy could almost be viewed as cartoony or overly satirical, but it never strays from the realities of life. And walking that fine line is what makes him a very smart filmmaker.
Now at the lowest level, there is a cleaning crew and staff mostly comprising of Asian and a few African immigrants as well. They are at the core of the ship, yet are often unseen and tasked with the most unpleasant and unsightly jobs.
Now above them are the maids and staff that actually interact with the clientele. They're always cheery, agreeable yes men and women.
Always. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
The casting by Östlund also underscores a racial element in this side of the crew, and that clearly plays into social standards.
Now that group that interacts with the clientele are almost exclusively white of European background. young and good looking, they are superior enough to interact with the rich. And of course, lastly, at the top of the heap, above them all, are the rich clientele, who are utterly bored, extremely shallow, and secretly unhappy in their privileged lives.
Yeah, and perfectly casted too.
Yeah.
He wants these unpleasant realities to be so obvious, they become almost painful, and funny in his decision to bring them to light.
Now this middle section in the luxury yacht is capped off by a crazy scene of vomiting and defecation that is hilariously graphic and not for the faint of heart. Now Östlund wants to bring down the uber-rich to a level of human debasement that is clearly a critique of their lifestyle. And he degrades them for some sort of karmic catharsis by the universe. Yeah, if you're squeamish, this scene gets it's hilarious, but it's also pretty intense.
And overflowing toilets.
Yeah,
it just gets everywhere.
It is intense, but it's hilarious at the same time. So.
Yeah. Now with the last section, if we didn't get the message of the film by now, then this section smashes us over the head with it. But again, we think it works. Subtlety can be good for some movies, but especially with comedy, you sometimes want to confront the ugly truths head on and bluntly.
Yeah. Now, after a foiled attempt at the crews being taken hostage by Somali pirates, the ship is destroyed and only a few of the clientele and staff make it to a nearby desolate island. Now, in this new and hostile environment, the roles are turned on their head, and the societal hierarchy is suddenly controlled by one of the previously lowly cleaning staff.
Yeah, the tables have turned.
Yeah.
And her name is Abigail, wonderfully played by Philippine actress Dolly De Leon, who in spite of her previous role and being slightly older, rises to control the group because of her adept skills at simple survival. Like being able to catch food and make a fire, it is the hilarious message of the film that the richest people are the most useless, and they have no real skills and can barely get by.
This is really bad. This is really, really bad.
Now, these uber rich, for being leaders of the world, now hilariously have to rely on a toilet cleaner for survival, because Abigail is the only one with any real life experience. From here on, a matriarchal mini-society arises, and Abigail skillfully uses her wit to gain a respect she never had before in the previous world.
But even Abigail is not devoid of falling into some of the trappings of power, as she slowly uses her control to get sexual favors and dominance over the rest of the survivors.
Now, the film clearly shows us what happens when you rapidly strip the wealthy elite of their perceived power, and how painfully clear their inadequacies come to the surface when it does happen. Now, Woody Harrelson briefly appears as the drunken captain of the ship, and his interactions with the Russian oligarch are pure gold, and further cement the blunt social divide that exists between the less than 1% and the rest of us.
A Russian capitalist and an American communist.
On a $250 million luxury yacht.
Yeah, when they hijack the overhead system.
The intercom system.
Oh my gosh.
The ship is going under.
And they start talking about communism and capitalism. The Russian oligarch is more the capitalist, and him, the captain of the ship, is more spouting these communist ideas about redistribution of wealth and...
Completely inappropriate for a captain on a luxury cruise, but...
It's beautifully played out scene, so...
Yeah. The acting by everyone is top notch, and the production design is expertly crafted with scenes involving tilted sets and all sorts of calamities arising within the ship. And while mostly obvious, the film does have some allegorical layers that distance it from more traditional comedic fare.
There's a shot of an empty wheelhouse and a steering wheel aimlessly spinning around without a captain to steer it, as the ship traverses a furious storm. And this channels the larger message of the film. All the money in the world does not indicate those who are in charge know what they are doing. They are blind navigators into a storm, and in spite of their wealth, they are barely holding themselves together, just like the rest of us.
Östlund likes to show us ugly truths that we sometimes ignore or choose to look through a more sanitized lens. But he is brave enough to make us laugh at the blatant stupidities of how the world operates today.
Yeah, I agree. He's a brave filmmaker who understands how comedy can sometimes be better suited at highlighting and confronting serious topics, such as wealth inequality, by making fun of them and making light of the whole situation.
And now for ratings of the film. So what would you give it?
You know, I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think mainly because the film could maybe benefit from a combined 10-minute trim from the beginning section and the last section, and still get its message across. Still hilarious. Östlund does a great job with the casting, the production design, the message, you know, and I think he overall succeeds. I found the square a little bit intellectually smarter. The commentary is there. We see it every day. We acknowledge it. We choose to ignore it. He heightens it and makes us laugh at how stupid it is. But The Square was probably a slightly better film. But overall, it's a very strong film, and I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, agreed.
How about you?
I'm going to have to agree with you on this one, too. I think 7.5 out of 10 is a pretty decent score for it.
We're going to think we're...
I know. Listen, we do have our own opinions, I promise.
That very ending scene, where does it leave the story? Where does it leave them as a stranded group in a desolate island? Are the roles still going to continue? Is the social norm going to go back to its old and terrible ways? You know, it kind of leaves it open like that.
Right. And it kind of leaves it open as to, do the others ever find out what's on the other side of the island?
Yeah.
So it was pretty great and memorable, and I would definitely rewatch this again. And
yeah, it's hard to make us laugh in films, but this movie there was a couple moments we were just literally laughing, and especially Kristen was looking away at the squeamish parts of the toilet humor stuff,
because it was done so over the top, but so well.
Yeah, they must have used some crazy special effects to make it really believable, and like all the little details of stuff swishing around and stuff is pretty...
Yeah, it was pretty great. Yeah. So yeah, I think it was a really awesome film.
Try to check it out for sure.
Definitely check it out. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss more Film Snob reviews.